Hey, welcome back to the Cam and Joe podcast, episode 14. Today we're going to be talking about bad bosses. I'm sure everyone has dealt with this. We want to introduce our guest here, Lauren, who'll be joining us, Lauren Maria.
Hi.
Welcome,
and of
Lauren.
course, everyone knows Joe. How are you, Joe?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks.
This is a good topic. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited, too. And as you'll see, Lauren has some very good examples to share with us today. So I don't know if you just want to share a little bit about yourself for everyone.
Sure. Do you want like personal or more like work stuff?
Whatever you feel comfortable sharing, but definitely the work stuff too, since we're going to be talking about bosses.
Yeah. Cool. Well, currently I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have two kids, a 4.5-year-old son and a just turned 4-month-old daughter. But before I was a stay-at-home mom, I worked in the legal field for 15 years.
Wow.
So I worked in a total of 6 different law firms. And I pretty much kind of started at the bottom as like a sort of afternoon receptionist after high school, went to college, kind of worked my way up to, office clerk, file clerk, then legal secretary. And once I graduated from college, I continued to work as legal secretary, but I went to school in the evening and got my paralegal certificate. So that took me about 2 years to get. And then I was a paralegal for about 6-7 years. And then my husband and I both decided that I would stay home and be a stay-home mom. So,
are you really good at finding dirt on people? I feel like I knew someone who went to paralegal school and they know how to find all the dirt.
To research is basically a paralegal's number one job. So, I can find anything on anyone regarding anything, instantly. It kind of scares my husband or even my mom. Anytime she needs anything, she's like, Lauren, can you find this for me? And I'm like, yes. And within 5 minutes, I'm like, here you go. So
that's a cool skill.
I always said if whatever I, didn't do the legal field anymore, I was like, I would want to be a private investigator or something super fun like that. I don't know. I just thought it'd be fun.
Yeah, so watch out, CJ. If you're listening, don't try nothing crazy because you'll get caught quick.
He knows.
All right. Well, how about you kick us off with an example of a bad boss or a scenario that you had while working?
Me? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, there's just so many. I had a boss one time. He was a sole practitioner, which just meant he has his own law firm basically. And so it was just me and him in the office. And I found out, had a porn addiction that he would watch porn on his computer at work in his office. And he would accidentally, I don't know why, print images to my printer. That's kind of how I found out that he was doing this. He was always a little. I think he must have been. I mean, why would you be printing this stuff anyways? It's kind of weird, but I would notice he was always a little kind of cranky when I would come into his office in the morning and I'd knock on the door. I'd be interrupting. He'd always give me kind of
meditation time.
Yeah, I guess. So when I started seeing some stuff come to my printer, I was like, "What is this?" I don't know. It was super awkward and uncomfortable. And there was just little things here and there. He would go golfing a lot. So he would ask me, one day he called me and he's like, the IT guys come into the office. I need you to go into my office and delete all my cookies, delete all my history.
Oh my God.
But this was before I knew really what was happening.
You're just taking sensitive legal information that you're clearing essentially. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, delete whatever. That was pretty uncomfortable. And so I'm like, I don't really know what to do. So I just kind of asked him, I was kind of hinting hey, I think I need to call the IT guy. It seems like your computer is keeps printing to my printer, hint, hint, wink, wink. But I don't.
You didn't really bring him into him. Hey, here's these photos you printed.
The next time he did it, I just grabbed a few of them and I kind of tossed them on his desk. And I was like, stop printing these to my printer or I'm quitting. I was literally just
what did he say?
He was just just fumbling around. And
was he how old? Was he an older guy?
He was middle-aged.
Oh, so he's
when I was working
not
there.
technology was a
this was
he
also
wasn't good with it or something.
This was also probably, I would say, like in 2007, 2008. So I don't know if
was he like addicted? Like he would just watch it to watch it?
I mean, I would assume if you're doing it at work.
That's crazy.
And he had me like pay all of his personal bills. Like that was part of my job, is I would like pay his like family's like credit cards and like cell phones. I was basically just like in charge of the billing, also like law firm related, but all, his personal stuff. And so like I would get his cable bill, and so I would pay it each month, using his accounts or whatever. And one of the months I was like, why is this so high? And this was back when they would like itemize, the Comcast bill or whatever. And he had like ordered 2 porns on there, and the titles were on there and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh.
What was his genre of like flavor of choice?
Well, one of the titles I remember was Latinas Love It Big. And it was like burned into my memory. I'll never forget that. I was like so traumatized. I don't know if that was his sort of, area, but
his area of focus.
I don't know.
Flavor of the day.
Yeah. I was like,
I mean, at least it's
so
not something super weird, because I'm thinking if he's having you run to clear them, he's looking at like some like stuff he's ashamed of. But I mean, that's relatively normal, at least.
I mean, I think like watching porn at work is something to be like pretty ashamed of, right?
That's a really good point.
I don't know.
I could say I've never done that. Have you guys ever done that?
No, that's like the dumbest place to possibly do that at. Like you just open yourself up to get fired or all sorts of stuff.
Imagine having that, like you have such a thirst for it. You're like, you got to like go on your work computer to look at it. Like that's what a strange and
or
like
maybe he was just
proclivity.
trying to maybe he was trying to hide it. I mean, I know he had kids and stuff, so maybe it was like, I mean, Cameron, like when you have kids, like you don't really get like a lot of alone time at home, right? Maybe I don't know.
So you're saying it's his wife's fault? His family ruined his life.
I wonder if he's trying to build clients for those hours.
Oh my God. I just got $100 an hour to watch porn.
Reviewing your case documents, and that's not what's happening.
Yeah, so I say that's one of my like most uncomfortable, like worst, like inappropriate work story.
How did it play out? Like, what was how did that job end?
Oh, he ended up like financially, he wasn't really doing well. I think because probably he was never at work working. You know what I mean? So it's like he ended up having to cut my hours back. And that was when I was living with Cameron. So I was like, had bills, and I was going to school full time, and I was trying to, just kind of make ends meet. So I ended up having to leave to go to another job that gave me more hours.
Yeah.
Which ended up being another crazy place, but.
Okay, we'll get into an example from there too, but
yeah.
What about you, Joe? Do you have an example of you want to share?
Yeah, so I've had like a handful of what I would call like bad bosses, but my craziest, and actually someone who oddly is like sort of a mentor to me now in a weird way. But so this particular person, she's actually like half, like a year younger than me, but she's like wildly successful entrepreneur. So she owned a small company that I wound up working for, and I was in the marketing department for this particular company. But I worked there for like 8 months, and she was, I mean, I wish I could even tell the story, but I got fired from this job for being like, I was like perpetually like 2 or 3 minutes late, but like we had flex scheduling, but she would just like pick and choose when she would like enforce the pace depending on like her mood. So I wound up getting fired one day when I was like 3 minutes late. She like just fired me. But anyway, she like made me cry a couple times. Like literally I would be like in my office, like with my hands like in my head in my hands, like weeping. Like she was, I wish I could think of an actual example, but this lady literally made me cry a couple times. It was crazy.
Was it the way that she talked to you, or was it what she would say to you?
It was like, I had no idea what to do. I had like no job description. I just like got hired to like do marketing. So like I wasn't doing a good job, I guess, because I had no fucking clue like what the job really was in essence. And she was just like brutal. Like she would just come in and just like clean house. Like I remember during my last week, I was like thinking about quitting anyways. they had a new designer who was like doing like a shadow work day, and I like bumped into her in the hallway, and I was like, "Do not work here." I was like, "Fucking run." I was like, so yeah, that was probably the worst like boss situation I've had. So
Yeah.
what about you, Cam? What's your worst boss?
The Army is definitely a lot of stories can come from there, just because some of the things they decide to have you do make zero sense and are like dangerous also. But one thing was, while we were deployed, a common thing that was done was like anytime there would be potholes in the road or side of the road, that's where they would hide like the roadside bombs, the IEDs in, because it's so much easier, right? You don't have to like dig a new hole. You could just like drop it down an existing hole and like throw some trash or dirt over it. So I don't know, like halfway through deployment, some person, maybe our like lieutenant or whatever, got this brilliant fucking idea that they're like, hey, we know how to stop this or make it more difficult for them. We're going to fill these potholes. So they basically ordered like a bunch of bags of cement from like supply, which I don't know where the fuck they got these from, like shipped in or whatever. And then we fill up a bunch of 5-gallon gasoline cans with water, and took some shovels. And then we just went out there, like in the middle of these cities where there's big potholes. And they wanted us to fill the holes first with like some dirt and then concrete over the top of them. So we're basically like a road work crew, and we're like in the infantry, just out here like doing road construction in sector where you could be like fucking shot from any direction anytime. And one of the guys we're with, he's so dumb, to fill the hole, he starts using his shovel to like scoop dirt and fill it, but he's just digging a new hole right next to the hole we're filling. And we're like, bro, what are you fucking doing? Like, and we would have to like pour the Quikrete on the top and then pour the water, and with our shovels, like we're mixing in place while like half the people are like facing out, like pulling security. We did that for probably like 3 hours before finally they listened and were like, all right, this is canceled. Like, bring it back. This is not working. There's literally thousands of fucking potholes. Like, I don't know what they thought this was going to achieve or anything, but that's just one small example, I guess, of many dumb things that they were like, let's put your lives at risk for some fucking pointless activity.
I have to imagine those roads are just garbage and they're just filled with holes. Is that what you're saying, essentially? Like, you basically needed to like run like some like construction equipment to like just resurface the roads they might have just had you do instead.
Well, the area we were at was very kind of rural, like farmland, kind of outskirts areas. So most of the roads were just basic asphalt, like barely wide enough for more than one car to go down, like opposite directions, and then just dirt shoulders on each side. You know, like typical you'd see like in kind of a rural, like country road area in the United States. But, you know, over time, like no one's really out there updating them or fixing them. So a lot of them just had potholes. And then when they would keep putting an IED in the same hole over and over again, like we had one eventually, you could literally fit like an entire car down inside of it. The hole so epic big.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like one of us went down in the thing and they took a picture, like the person standing in the middle of this humongous crater. Like even if the IED didn't get you, your vehicle would just go like right down in the hole.
What do you guys do to those holes? Like,
that one we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't try to fill it. You just go around it.
It's so big. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the times it's flat dirt because it's like farm fields on the sides. You could easily just go around in that particular situation. But that was one of the times. But what about you, Lauren? What's another? I know you've, especially I know before you've said it, working in the law field, attorneys are quite a different breed and do some real wild and eccentric things.
They do. And it's shocking because you would think like they would probably be the most behaved because of, they know like, you know, we could get in trouble or whatever, but I think they kind of get away with a lot of stuff. I worked for this sort of like kind of high profile attorney, right? And he had a high profile case that was on sort of like made national headlines. And so he was going to be on, I don't remember if it was like CNN or something like that, but he was going to be basically like talking about the story. And so he came up to me and he was like, I want you to go to the drugstore and buy me makeup. Like I need to put on makeup because I don't want to look washed out. Like I'm going to have an interview, like I'm going to be on TV. And I was like, okay, like, what kind of makeup do you want? Like, I'm like, I don't know how to buy makeup for like, some middle-aged man. So he's like, just get me anything, whatever you would wear, but like, make sure it's like non-whorish. I want non-whorish makeup. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what that is. But, so I went to the, Walgreens or CVS or whatever and ended up buying him. I'm like, I don't know what color to match him. Like, I don't know what his, foundation number is. If he likes blush, like eyeshadow, like, whatever. So I bought a makeup and then he wanted me to put it.
What brand did you buy for him?
I don't remember. It was just some whatever
like
cheap
Maybelline.
Yeah, something like that. L'Oreal or like Wet and Wild or something like that. So he was like, then he wanted me to put it on him, and I was like, I'm not.
Were you like, you better pay me extra for this? Like,
seriously. And I was like, I have this like discovery that you've been hounding at me to get sent out. Like, I don't have time to sit here and do your makeup. And he's like, I need help blending it. Like, I'm like, you have a 5 o'clock shadow. Like, I don't know how well you're going to be able to like blend this
like
in.
Foundation on like a 5 o'clock shadow. It's
Oh
like
my
powder
goodness.
face.
It was just like, we were all laughing. We were like, this is crazy.
How did he look?
Whorish.
No, he didn't look
Did
whorish. I don't think we quite got the color match, but it was okay. Whatever.
How did it look in the interview?
It looked you could tell it wasn't like his right color.
Would it have been
the
better if he
foundation
just
match? Like he looked
if he
a little
didn't wear
like pale.
anything? You think?
I think so, because I think you have to like put on a ton of makeup, right, for it to even like show up. I don't know. He just looked like a disaster. It's like,
How did he feel about it? Did he
I
like
think
it?
he liked it. I think he was feeling
okay.
himself. Yeah, he seemed very confident when he was on the TV. So,
Wow. Yeah. I've never, no, that's not true. I've worn makeup. I dressed for like a costume. I dressed in drag one time. Have you ever worn makeup, Cam?
Like camo, like face paint.
Okay, yeah, that's like
not
badass
like regular makeup.
I'm like, yeah, I wore
style.
blush, and you're like, yeah, I wore camo to like
Yeah.
Well,
battle.
I think I maybe let a girlfriend before or something be like, I want to put some on you or whatever, and just like at home, and then you wipe it off. But
yeah, there's a picture of me like a Polaroid floating out there somewhere. I'm hoping it got destroyed. There's also like
of you like in drag.
Yeah, like full face makeup,
When
looking
you're-
like a train
What was your-
wreck.
when you're a
tranny.
billionaire, that's going to be floating around on all the social medias.
Dude, I gotta stay low key because I'm worried about. You know what? Thank effing God though that we weren't of the generation where like everything was like a video camera. You know what I mean? Like the cell phones we had. I actually was cleaning out a bunch of shit in my closet today, and I found my old like. Where's my hand? There's my hand. An old like Nokia like slab phone. Remember the little
the
one?
gray-
It was the
the
big
gray brick
slab,
one?
and then it was the little slab with like Snake on it.
Mm-hmm.
And but like we weren't taking photos. Like there was all the weird shit we did not make it to the internet. Now kids are just like, yeah. But no, I mean that, and then there's also a mixtape that I made, and one of the songs I recorded myself singing to a girl that broke up with me, and her name's Shanna, and I hope to fucking God she threw that thing away, because if that ever resurfaces, I'm gonna have to hire a hitman.
Oh my
to,
God.
like,
We-
make sure that thing never makes it to the light of day.
We got to remix that and make it like an intro to the podcast.
Yes, that's a great idea.
I was covering like a Nirvana song with Mike. Oh, dude, I'm like dying inside just thinking about it. I was very passionate.
Love it.
Gosh.
Woof. That's probably why lawyers, though, kind of rewinding what you're saying, they're a little more emboldened because they like know how to manipulate the law, and so they feel like they can get away with stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, it can be a very crazy atmosphere and environment, at least in my experience. And they're probably not all like that, but it's just a really high stress job. So I think when you're just so stressed out, it makes people can make them act kind of crazy or just do things, that just, there's like a lot of drinking and kind of things that go on like
Cocaine.
that. And,
My buddy,
Yeah.
Tim, is a legal writer, and so he works with like really big, like major law firms, and he corroborates what you're saying. Essentially, he was like, they won't sleep for like days at a time, but they're making so much money that they want to win these cases, and then they're just like pulling all nighters, partying. They're just like then the stress, right? Lack of sleep makes you act crazy.
Well, and I think just you're so stressed that like, you know, you leave work and you go to like a happy hour, right? To kind of like sort of take the tension off. And then you get so wasted at the happy hour, then it turns into like going to the strip club with your boss and like the managing partner's executive assistant, and you're playing like real or fake, you know, over a bottle of Patron at the freaking strip club. And you're like, how did we end up here? Like, what's happening?
What is that game?
It's just real or fake. Like if the tatas are real or if they're fake.
And the strippers.
Yeah.
That's a good game. That's a good game. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're in a job that there's so much money, like you can afford to do that wild shit, right? Like when I lived in the city, all the like finance bros I knew, like they all did wild shit, but it's like part of the atmosphere, I guess. I don't know. It's like the yuppie uniform where you wear like the sweater with the collar. Like the lawyer or the finance guy, like they go like blow money at the strip club or like do cocaine.
They're like, here's my black card. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, I want a black card. That's so cool.
It was crazy.
And when you say city, Joe, you're talking about Chicago, right?
Chicago, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Lauren, yours was San Francisco.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay.
y'all been experienced in the big cities where it's, you know, extra wild.
Yeah, there's a lot of money there in those careers for sure. I mean, Chicago too, but I think it's comparable. But San Fran, there's probably even more dough. But it's dude, like what, $200,000 is like middle class in San Francisco. It's fucking nutty.
I would say that was probably like middle lower class.
Oh, that's nuts.
Like they said in the Bay Area of California, if you make I think it was like $110,000 a year, you're considered low income. Yeah.
Dear God.
Living paycheck to paycheck. Yep.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Well, what did people used to have to pay to park in the city for a month if their job didn't like provide parking for them? Like on average, what would it cost?
I don't know per month, but like every once in a while, because I had a car in the city, which was dumb. I don't know why I did that, but every once in a while I'd be like running late to work. Or it'd be like street sweeping day. So I had to move my car, and it was like $57 a day just to park like in the parking garage, unless you did like the early bird special, which was there like before 6:30 in the morning. And then it was like 25 or $30.
Dude, that would be the best. Like owning parking garages.
I was just going to say the same thing. That's investment.
Oh my God, you fucking rake. Even if you just have like a flat lot. I mean, obviously if you have levels.
Yeah.
But if you just have a flat lot and you can get 100 cars in there, 30 cars in there, whatever, $50 a day, dear God.
Pay an attendant, and then there's like no upkeep basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the law firms I worked at, the parking garage, like the building that it was in, the parking garage, like kind of in the basement, they had like a car wash detailing company in there. So then if you know, some of these high profile people or like kind of, you know, top dollars, if you wanted your car washed while you were working, you just pay these guys and they wash your car till they detail it.
Oh, so they like subcontracted through the law firm because it didn't cost the law firm anything, but whoever wanted to use it had to pay for it.
Well, it was just like a big building. So let's say it was like, I don't know, 20 floors. There was different companies, right? So like everyone would just park in. So, but they had the like management of the building or whatever put like a car detailing company in there. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? Like
that's like in that movie, it's Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart where he
Get Hard or something like that.
Get Hard, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go to you, Joe, for an example, we'll take a quick break for our sponsors here. GetRichRetire.com. Follow and go there. How often are articles updated? Weekly?
Weekly. There's usually a new article on that website.
New articles weekly where you can learn about finance, lifestyle, golf. Am I forgetting any other topics?
Just all around like rich guy stuff.
Really good information.
Real
there.
or fake?
That will have to be a new one coming on. And of course, unsoiledyachts.com. As now the recession is hitting, many yachts are starting to come on the market. So if you're in the market for a not brand new, slightly used, but our blacklight guarantee to where there will be no soil stains or anything on it. So check it out.
That blacklight guarantee, man. They're used, but not used.
Yep. So what about you, Joe? What's another example of a bad boss or like crazy work situation you've had and how you dealt with it?
Oh man, I feel like I'm probably, when people tell the story of like having like a bad employee, like I don't think I'm a bad employee, but I'm like super challenging. I remember one of my old boss, I like told him he wasn't good with people. And then like he set up a meeting with me and his boss. And I told his boss in front of him that he wasn't good with people. And then like, I just remember like this. And then like years later, I'm like thinking about it and I'm like, why would I fucking say that? Like, he was like a really good dude.
You threw that dude
just
under
was like
the bus.
Not like super. What's that?
You threw that dude under the bus.
Oh my god! I seriously, like, what the like? Who does that? I've like now we're like cool now, you know. But I've like apologized to him for it because like he's like that guy that will like go to bat and like do good things for you, but like you don't, when you're like a pissed off employee, you don't recognize that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But he just wasn't as like socially like smooth as like maybe some other bosses. He's a little more like analytical, and that's kind of where like my head was at the time. But yeah, I'm sure he would tell that story about me. So it's kind of like a reverse example.
Was it like that? What was the fallout from that?
We like went out to lunch afterwards, and he was like, "Dude, why the fuck would you say that?" And I was like, I was just like such a diva when I was younger, man. I don't know how I didn't get fired from that job. But luckily, because I work in sales, I've always been good at selling. So you can kind of get away with being like a bit of a little like, you know, whatever, if you're making money for the company. I think that's the only reason I didn't get shit canned, was because I was doing a good job.
Wow. Well, that's incredible that you guys were able to maintain the friendship and stuff after that. I think that's what's the big difference between like, you know, like men and women, right? Like if a chick did that to another chick, that would be like to the end of time. That would be a grudge.
You would never forgive her. It would be like, and then you'd rally all your like office co-workers who are on your side, and then she'd have her office co-workers on her side, and it'd be like battle of the, you know, girls.
Dude, it's so fascinating though, like when, and just their like gender dynamics at work, and then just like politics at work. Like, yeah, like how do you guys feel about that? Like it wasn't until recently where I've really tried to get better at playing, I call it the game within the game, but I don't know, like what are your guys' thoughts on that?
You can go ahead, Lauren.
I feel like I was always really good at playing sort of the office politics. I just try to stay out of the drama as far as like coworkers go. And then just with like, I don't know, there's so many personalities and so much like just going on that I think if you just kind of do your job and just sort of like, you know, hey, you want me to get you coffee? Well, I'm a paralegal. I'm not supposed to get you coffee. That's not in my job description, but you're going to pay me for it. Like, okay. Like I was just always really go with the flow and just kind of, you know, do whatever you asked me to do. And I just kind of feel like, I don't know, it's just made things a lot easier. Right. What about you, Cameron?
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a good point. I'm very similar to like, I just do my job and focus on that. But I'm definitely aware of like everything that's going on because, you know, that's information is important to know like what everyone's thinking. Mm-hmm. And that's also an opportunity that you can use it, you know, to your advantage. And I don't mean as like a manipulative way, but, you know, if you know certain things are going on and, you know, you need as far as like getting work done and things like that, you can use those. Or, you know, if you're like setting up a team for a project and you know these two coworkers basically want to kill each other in a lot of drama, like you know, like when you put them on the same team. So I think no matter how well of a job you try to avoid and not be involved, like it's impossible to work somewhere and like not be part of the drama, I guess. I mean, you don't have to be the drama, but you're going to know what's going on. All the water cooler talk and stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I do like the water cooler talk, yeah.
Oh, that's the best, yeah. It's cool.
What
to
you
just
say?
like
You think what?
I was just saying, I think having thick skin too, right? Like, I think that that's super important, especially in a career like, you know, where it's a really stressful environment or people can, you know, just sort of say crazy things or do crazy things. Like I had a boss one time, she just would scream at me all the time and she threw a stapler at me. Like she was just like, she would call me names.
Like at you physically, yes. Or like at the wall?
Like like I'm standing in the doorway and she just was like, boom, and just threw the stapler. And it's kind of like, you know, you sort of had to duck out of the way or whatever. But she would call me like
you? Like you matrixed it?
Probably more like my legs, like my calves, or my shins, like something lower like that.
So
That was still
even a
hurt.
good
If that was
thrower.
that
So
was a
she,
swing
like,
line. Those are
released
pretty
too late.
sturdy, heavy staplers.
Yeah, and I remember like
So
those
if
little.
it was a swing line. Yeah, I mean, if it was a swing line for sure,
Yeah.
it would be fucking
No,
heavy.
that's what- it was like
is that a
that.
swing line?
This thing is solid metal. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's
Dude,
That's
it was-
heavy
and
and
that's
legit.
like a
It was
one
a
of the
plastic one.
OG ones. That's
Yeah.
a nice one. Yeah.
Yeah, and she would just yell and scream at me, and she'd be like, "You're a liar! Like, what you said on your resume isn't true," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, if you look in the file, the proof is I did do a proof of service. It's in the file. Like, look through the file. And so I was just like, ended up just leaving her office, and then 5 minutes later, Lauren, like she calls me back in, and she was like, "Oh, you were right. I see that it's in here. I'm sorry about that." But that was like normal behavior. Like, so it was like that would be something that would be really hard. I remember I would come home and just be like. Sometimes it was just too much, right? But when you're in the office, you just kind of have to deal with it and just have thick skin. And
How old was
know?
she? Was she like older? I feel like that's
Middle-aged.
such a remnant of the past, like that type of like top down treatment. Like work is so
Yeah.
much more collaborative now with like at least our generation.
Well, and
yeah,
when
I
we
mean,
oh sorry,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and that was the time we were in Sacramento, like living together. I remember because you would come home some days and you'd be like so stressed out and pissed, and I would just be like partying, like having a cocktail, and some days
Yeah.
you'd look at me like mother effer, like, and I'd be like, here, I'll make you a drink, like, there's no worries.
I remember one time you were so sweet. I was like complaining, I think texting you or whatever, like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm quitting," like, that kind of thing. And I came home and you're like, "I got you a surprise at the store," and you had like a bottle of my favorite wine, and you were like, "Here you
Aw.
go." Like, it was so cute. I think I drank that whole bottle by myself that night. It was not great, but
I mean, I drink with you, but I was just not a wine drinker, so.
yeah. Like an Incredible Hulk drinker. Is that what they were calling?
Oh, was
Yeah.
that Henny and Hypnotic? Dude, those were good.
Used to fill
I
up
could
my
smell it
ice
from
bucket.
like the living room. I was like,
Hip and Henny.
like
Those were
legit, he
so
had
popular.
an ice bucket. Like, like when you go to like a hotel and they have like a little bucket that you could fill the ice with. It wasn't quite that big, but it was an actual like ice bucket that he would fill up with the drink and had a little handle on it, and he would like carry it around.
Did you have
straw.
like a curly Q straw or something?
No, I would
like that?
I would just drink it like this.
That's
from the
amazing.
lip, and I would normally
How are
put.
you not a full blown Elkie?
I
That's
was
amazing,
then. I would
man.
normally put 10 shots in it, and I'd
for
have
you.
like two liters of soda, and I would just be like glug 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 glug, and just I don't know. The worst I ever did one night, I almost drank 3 of those. So
Wow.
it was yeah. There was like probably a 2-year period where it was rough, but I'm pretty chill now.
Same, yeah. I like look back on my young party self, and I'm like, it makes me like, I don't know how I did it one, and then now if I tried to, I would just get anxious, or I would just be so depressed the next day that I'm like, fuck that. But it was like you'd be fine the next day. Like I would party like that, do drugs, and wake up and be like,
You'd be like going to the gym or like, working
Yeah.
out or whatever, and you're totally fine. Like
living
now,
life.
I don't even like to go to a loud restaurant. It's like my husband and I go to a restaurant. I'm like, huh? What? Like, I can't even hear you. Like, it's,
Oh God.
we're so
That's
old.
when you know
It's
you're
so
going
different.
deaf, because when you can't make out like a targeted sound when there's background noise, that's like one of the signs of like hearing loss. Yeah, if I'm somewhere really loud, I'm just like, I'll just be like, yep. Like
Yeah.
just say like random shit back to people just because I have no idea what they're saying.
You're like, I feel like
What's
I'm in the
would you
woofer.
rather?
Like,
So, stay at home mom. That's obviously like a very hard job or whatever word I'm looking for. But like,
yeah.
is it harder than working? Like it's like you can't turn it off. So like,
It's
at least like I
24/7.
get to leave the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I joke around that like my current boss is like, he's like a ball buster. He's 4.5, and he makes me clock in at 5:00 in the morning. He makes me work 14-hour days. I don't get like a meal break or rest period. I don't get paid overtime. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like
That's rough.
it's hard just because it's 24/7, but it is rewarding in the sense that you get to be around your kids so much, and you really form like a really good bond with them, and everything that's going on with them. They're just really close with you, but it can be tiring, and you don't really get kind of that social interaction that you do like when you work in an office. And around other adults. I find myself like
Adult
spelling,
humans.
spelling things a lot. Like, and I'm like, oh wait, my kids aren't here. Like, I don't need to spell that word. Like, I could just say it, or just
You're like
little
cutting up
things
your
like that.
husband's food, and you're like, he's like,
Like
I don't
cutting the
need
crust
that.
off. Yeah.
All right, let's hypothetically, I don't think this exists, but like every once in a while, my dogs being really annoying, we'll like send them to like camp for the day. Like if there was like a place where you could just like let your child go like roam with other children for the day, would you do that?
There
Do you
is.
think parents
Yes,
will
it's
take
called
advantage of that?
school. Yeah.
But when they're that age, it's like they're
Well, he's in preschool.
He's
He's in
okay.
pre-K, so he just goes half a day. But my husband and I are like, man, half a day is like, we should have booked him for the full day. Like,
Should have booked
This
him
is-
overnight. Do the kids
Yeah.
still take naps?
yes.
Dude, at school?
In this particular school, in this class, like they have a mat, so they have like quiet time if you go for
Okay.
a full day. But he doesn't go for a full day, so he doesn't have to do it. But
We used to take naps, and the like teachers, and I don't know if in like preschool they're not like actual like teachers, are they? They're like whatever, but like they would like come around and like scratch our backs and like rub our backs, like totally
sounds
benign, right? Like
amazing.
very like loving, just nurturing behavior. But like now that would be like full blown, like don't touch my kid, like
yeah,
you're
I don't
a
think he'll let you
molester.
do that.
Yeah, oh yeah, I wouldn't want anyone to do that to my kid, but like it was totally normal back then.
Yeah.
Well, and now the teachers probably just are like, yeah, I need a break. Y'all go to sleep, and it's like on their phone, like on social media. But back then, phones weren't a thing. So
Yeah, there was nothing to do, so you just
Yeah.
rub kids' backs.
What do you think, Cameron? Because you were a stay-at-home dad. What do you think's easier or harder?
So I did it for like the first 3 years almost or so. It was definitely exhausting mentally and physically. I mean, it's tiring because it's 7 days a week. I mean, it's from the time they wake up to go to bed, and if they don't sleep through the night, you're constantly getting up, and yeah, it's exhausting. Like a normal 9 to 5 job is a break. It's like the most piece of cake, no matter how busy your job is. I mean, obviously, if you're like some crazy physically demanding, like laborious job, then of course. But the thing is, like when you clock out for the day, you're done. It's not like that when you have kids, and by the time they finally go to sleep, especially if you're also the parent that's like doing cooking and cleaning, you still gotta like, I mean, you're not like done for the day. You're basically cleaning and straightening things up and stuff until you go to bed. So
My
It's,
husband always says
it's
he's
hard.
like going to work is way easier than staying home with kids. He's like, I couldn't do it.
Once I really started, and it's pales in comparison, but like only comparison I know is having pets, but like sometimes I want a fucking break. Like I work from home, so I'm always here, and I'm just like, leave me like my dog is up my
Does he
ass
follow
all
you
day,
all around?
and I'm like, oh yeah, and he's like this nice, he's so nice, but like sometimes I'm like, just leave me the fuck alone, dude.
Yeah.
Go in the other room, right? But like with a kid, you can't be like you're legally responsible, and I'm sure you love, like, some days I don't really like my dog, but I'm sure you always love your kid.
Well, you
So,
do,
yeah.
but you're like, I would love to go to the bathroom. Like, I would love to have just a couple minutes to go to the bathroom without like having somebody like opening and closing the door and like talking, shaking
What
your
are you
legs and
doing?
like, yeah, like, oh, like watching you wipe or like getting the toilet paper for you and then throwing a
Wow.
fit because they tore half the toilet paper and it's like all over the place and they have a meltdown and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to go to the bathroom. Like, so it's interesting.
Yeah,
They're screaming at you while you're like in the middle of pooping, and they're like, can you change it? I don't want to watch this show anymore. I'm like, yeah, when I'm done going to the bathroom. They're like, change it! And I'm like,
I
Yeah.
can see why Louis C.K. makes that joke. Like when his family leaves, he just like takes a long shit. Like I'm like, oh, he's probably gonna go like masturbate. He's like, no, I just want to like poop in peace.
yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
one
Ever
for
like
sure.
trick
he's
your
like,
kids into go to bed early? Like, oh, it's your bedtime now, and they're like, no, it's 7, and you're like, that clock is wrong. You need to go to bed.
I feel like my son he'll be like, Mama, I'm tired. And it's like 6 p.m. And he's like, I want to go to bed. And I'm like, okay, like he's pretty easy, but it's probably because he's up trying to rage at 5 a.m. He's like running around, jumping all over the couch, talking a mile a minute. And he's like,
That's kind of
Mama,
nice.
you're not talking to me. I'm like, I'm still asleep. Like I'm trying to drink coffee. Like give me a break. So I think he just wears himself out.
Where do they get that energy, man? That's crazy.
well, because they conk out for like 10 hours straight every night
How do they sleep so well? Why can't we sleep that well?
because they're
Holy
just
shit.
nonstop
I
all
take
day.
like
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. They literally
Like
burn the candle to the frickin' like base and then just knock out. Yeah.
Like imagine how you feel. Like let's say you hit the gym and you played around 18 in one day. You probably sleeping good that night.
It'd be like, you tax your entire body and then your mind. Like they're like using their mind at max capacity just to like understand the world.
Totally.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, we noticed a big difference too when he started going to school, because I think it was like just this extra stimulation and like playing with all the kids and stuff. I mean, he'd be like falling asleep on the couch at like 3 p.m. I was like, it's not quite bedtime yet.
Yeah, no, because then he's getting up real early.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Are your guys' kids buddies? Like, have they like hung out before?
They've like played a few times together, but we've always lived in like different states so far. So
What's their age gap?
I think a little over a year. Like
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Year and a month or so. Close. They're really close in age. We did have like a big wheel dream. What you remember as a kid, those big wheels, the like 3-wheel.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and you could like do the frickin' spin thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So our dream, like before I moved out of Arizona and she was trying to move to Arizona, was like, oh yeah, like they were looking at houses in the same like community that we lived in. And we're like, that would be so cool. Like they could play together and like ride big wheels together and stuff like that. But you know, we ended up moving to Washington and then
we moved only a couple months
shortly after. So
yeah, within like 2 months, it was so close. It was like, ugh.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you guys always wanted as kids that you never got? Like a toy or like a thing. So mine was, you know how the kids have the like little kid car? It'll be like a Jeep Wrangler, bro, but it's like the size
like the
of
Power
like a
Wheels
child's car.
Oh yeah, that's like a Barbie car.
Barbie car.
Yeah.
So I always wanted one of those, but like we were like, it was like expense that like we couldn't like budget for, and so like I never had one, and obviously I'm too fucking big now, so to this day. But I'm gonna make all my fucking kids are gonna have Power Wheels.
We bought one for my son when he was 2, and he just rode it for the first time yesterday, no joke, and he's 4.5. Like, he wanted nothing to do with it. And I was like, can I get in that thing? Like, can I fit? Like, I want to ride it.
Do you fit?
I can, but my like legs, I can't like push the pedal, but it comes with a remote.
Knees are up.
So I was like having my husband, I'm like, do the remote, like drive me around while I sit in this thing.
Dude, that would be so cool to put your kid in it and do the remote.
Oh, he freaked out. He did not like it. He was like, too fast. I'm like, these things don't go that fast. You're fine.
Logan likes his a lot. He has like a car.
He has one?
Yeah, a car, and it's like Paw Patrol theme. Like one of his grandparents that got it for him.
Oh, cute.
Now out here it's
like a fire truck,
raining or freezing a lot. No, it's like a sports car. It's supposed to be Chase, so it's all blue, like the German Shepherd, the police dog.
Picking up babes in his Paw Patrol sports car,
like hitting the curb at full speed.
Yeah,
she's like going straight, and you're like, you got to turn. She's like.
Did he wipe out?
No, he didn't fall out and stuff, but, you know, I mean, they don't go that fast.
Just a little whiplash and maybe slightly concussed.
Yeah. So, yeah, whether you have, like, a regular job or kids, like, I mean, bad bosses all around, right? Like, same with pet owners, too. You could have a wild, crazy pet. So, I'll give you another example for me. When I was in high school, one of the, like, summer jobs I had was I worked for Regal movie theaters.
I love this.
Because I was like, oh, I love watching movies. Like, yeah, I'll make some money. And then, you know, on the days off, like you can watch movies for free. So I worked in the concession stand. That's where you got to start. Like to be an usher, to clean the theaters is like, get promoted to that. That's pretty chill. Because you don't have to deal with customers or anything like that. Like you just go in there and clean the movies. And then when there's no movies to clean, you just chill in the break room and like eat popcorn. Anyway, I think I worked there for like 2 months or something like that. But like, you know, when you first start working somewhere, there's like a week or so that you work, but like you don't get paid because it's like, oh, that hasn't hit the pay cycle. Like you'll be in the next pay cycle. So like you'll have an extra week of pay than you normally would, or whatever the case. Because first pay period came around, they're like, oh yeah, we don't have a check for you. And then they explain. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Cool. And then like 2 weeks later, I showed up, you know, it's like the manager's desk, like, hey, get my paycheck. And they're like, yeah, I don't see one in here for you. Like, well, we'll have to contact corporate or whatever. And they had basically like a Chronos type thing where you like clock in and out, right, with your badge. And my time card was fine. then 2 weeks later, so now I've been there 5 weeks, and I go to collect my check, and they're like, "Oh yeah, your check's not in here. Like, this is weird." And I'm like, now I'm starting to get mad. I'm like, "Hey, like, I've been here 5 weeks. Like, I still haven't been paid yet." And they gave me some runaround or whatever. Like, "Oh yeah, like I reached out to corporate, and they said like, oh, your check's here. Like, it didn't go out with the other checks or some bullshit like that." So then I shit you not, 2 weeks later, now I've been there 7 fucking weeks. I show up and I'm like, already like in a fucking irritated mood, right? And you can tell because now I'm starting to swear telling the story because it's like giving me a flashback. I go in there with my friend, and it's my day off. Like, I went in to get my check, and I'm expecting, all right, now I'm gonna get this check. I'm excited. It's gonna be a big check, right? Because it's gonna be like 7 weeks worth of pay all in one. And because at the time it's minimum wage, whatever that was, like $6.50 or something at the time. And I get there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't see a check for you." And at this point, like, I think I'm 16 or 17 years old. Like, all professionalism and filter goes out. And I'm like, "What do you mean my check's not in there?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't see it in there." And I'm like, "Well, this is effing bullshit." And I was like, "This is now, I've been here the 7 weeks. I've been working full-time hours, 40 hours a week. Y'all have not paid me yet. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, so I'm not leaving until someone gives me my fucking paycheck or cash out of the register or whatever. Like, y'all got to pay me." And he's on the phone, like, calling corporate, and you could tell he's like getting nervous. And I'm like, and I'm just a teen, right? Like, it's not like some scary adult. Anyway, so I'm there for like 20 minutes, makes all these calls, give me this fucking runaround. They're like, "Oh, it's going to come. Like, we'll have it later today," or some bullshit like that or whatever. I just told that guy, I said, "You know what?" I said, "Fuck you." And I just stormed out of there. I mean, obviously it's not very professional, but I'm a teenage boy. Like, what do you think's going to happen, right? And this was at the time when I had my Camaro. So I get in there with my friend, and we're parked in the stall, like forwards, right? Backing out of as soon as we get in the car, I just turn on. I didn't say a word, like leaving. He's like, "Cam," he's like, "It's all right, calm down. Like, it's all right, man." Like, and I just get in the car, and I used to have like crazy anger and stuff when I was a kid. And I just turned the car on, and I was like, "You better put your seatbelt on." And he's like, "Oh fuck," like fumbling, put the seatbelt on. And I just put it in reverse. I peeled out of the parking space going backwards, like, and as I'm peeling out, I turn the wheel so it peels out at like a 90 degree. And then I just shifted it into the drive and was like,
and this is like a super crowded, like,
this is
shopping center.
a humongous shopping center,
like
where
the biggest one in town.
Yeah,
like, so many people and cars.
Like 20 screens and an IMAX. And it's like the newest in town with, you know, like tons of restaurants there, Best Buy, like very large shopping center. And it's broad daylight, like the middle of the day, like 1 in the afternoon. And I literally just peeled out through the entire parking lot, like probably 2 blocks, like ran the stop sign, didn't even stop. It was just like, windows down, like accelerating. And my friend's like grabbing the old shit handle, like, "Oh my God, like, slow down, man." And I was just like, and then we get to, there's like a light at the intersection where you leave. And then from there you can go on the freeway. And I just was like fucking like power sliding, like through the intersection, like going on the freeway, like 110, like down the on ramp. Like, oh. And then I calmed down or whatever. But I was just like, yeah.
That volcano rage.
But to get payback, I was like, "Yo, I'm getting the money y'all owe me." Like, I don't know if eventually they got me a check or whatever. I don't remember, but I took my name tag and I just cut off the Cam part, so it just said Ron, and I have my work shirt still. So I would just show up at the theater with my work shirt on, and I'm like, I would go through like where they check your ticket, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's up, man?" Like Jeff or whatever his name tag would say, and I'm like, "Oh, cool." And he's like, "Oh, hey." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm new here. My name's Ron." And they'd be like, "Oh, cool." And it's like, "Nice to meet you." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, just head in the break room." And I would just go into theater and just watch movies, and I did that for like a year. Whenever I wanted to go see the movies, and just never pay for that shit. So
did you ever get paid?
I don't remember if they ever paid me or not. I think they eventually
did. They mail you a check?
I think they eventually did.
Dude, that's such a good story.
I saw a lot of movies, and now if I had to do that again today, I'd probably I don't know, like file a lawsuit or something, like small claims against them. But
what? How many movies do you think you saw? Like,
I would go like once a week,
period.
So probably like 50.
Okay.
And I would just go in with
$10?
Yeah, it was like $8 or something like that at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
so
would
like
just
$500.
Yeah, I had the polo shirt, and then underneath I'd have a regular T-shirt. So as soon as I got into the theater, as it's walking in where it's dark, I would just take it off, so no one would see it. I would just hold it on my lap. So when I went in, I just looked like a normal person, and I just did that.
And then when you left, it was just like a guy,
normal person leaving. Yeah. And then another, since that's kind of a similar thing of not being paid correctly, my first job ever was a dishwasher at a restaurant at a golf course. So I washed dishes for minimum wage. Minimum wage was $5.25 at that time in California. And I'd been there like a few months, and I think one day I was hanging out with my brother and his girlfriend. I was like, she's like, "Oh, you do your job or whatever." And I was complaining. I was like, "Yeah, the pay sucks, like whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, I make like $5.25." And she's like, "Minimum wage is $5.75." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, it's not $5.25. Minimum wage is $5.75." I said, "Since when?" She's like, "Oh, like a month ago they passed that law into effect." I'm like, "What?" So the next shift I go to work, I'm like, my boss, I'm like, "Hey, what's up? Like, I heard minimum wage is $5.75 now." And they were like, "Nah, that's not true. Like, we would pay you if that's what the wage was, right?" Then like a week later, me and the other dishwashers, because of course we're all talking about it, we get this like, and this is back before you have a phone where you just like look up anything on the internet. We get this mysterious tip check that's like a few $100s of like, "Hey, we're sharing tips with y'all," which had never happened before and didn't happen after that. And it was like the gap of those 50 cents an hour they didn't pay us for however many shifts and weeks. So I just thought it was funny, which they did it right, but it's funny that they were like, we're trying to pull fast one, act like they didn't know what's happening. So what about you, Lauren? You got another example?
I have one. It's kind of like a promotional thing. So I was working at a law firm as a legal secretary when I was going to school to get my paralegal certificate. And in paralegal school, you could choose like a specialty. So whatever type of law you want to like specialize in. And I was really interested in estate planning and like probate and stuff. But the firm I was working for at the time did real estate. They did landlord tenant law. And they were like, "Well, we want you to do the real estate route. That way you can come here and we'll hire you as a paralegal. We'll give you that big like office right there. You're totally like, as soon as you finish school, like, we'll hire you, give you such and such pay increase, whatever." I said, cool. So I ended up doing the real estate route. And then when I graduated and got my certificate, they didn't end up promoting me, and they ended up promoting somebody else in the office. She was like the receptionist or whatever. And like, she also had her paralegal certificate, but she had never worked in a law firm before. And I was really upset. And I said, "Well, why didn't I, you guys told me you were going to do this, and you guys promoted her over me. I've been here longer. Like, I've worked in the legal field longer than her. Like, what the heck?" And they were basically, at the time, I was supporting 4 attorneys, and one of them was one of the named partners. And they basically said, "Well, you're such a good like legal assistant or legal secretary that like he doesn't want to lose you as his legal secretary. So, we're just going to have her. Plus, we could like pay her less money because she has less experience than you, right?" Like, and so that didn't. I was like,
"Did your blood start boiling?" Like,
yes, I was so pissed. I was like, I guess it's a compliment, but it's like a backhanded compliment. Like, "Oh, you're so good at what you do. We don't want to like promote you.
We're going to hold you back."
Yeah. And I was like, I'll like be the paralegal, but I'll also be this attorney's legal secretary. Like, I can work for just one attorney and do paralegal work. Like, why couldn't you guys do that? And they were like, "Well, we'll have to think about it. Like, what is there to think about? You already promoted the other person." So they could tell I was pissed, and they were like, "Well, we don't want you to leave over this. Like, well, if you think you're going to end up leaving, like, let us know. We'll work something out." And I was just like, okay, but really I'm not going to tell you I'm planning on leaving, right? Like, what are you going to work out? You should have done it. If you told me you were going to do something, you should have just done it, right? So I ended up getting a new job within like a week and a half. I had a new job, and I put my notice in, and I was like, "Bye, peace out." Like, and they were like, "No, we don't want to leave. We don't want you to leave." So they offered me like a ton more money, like basically all of this stuff. And I was just like, "No, like it's the principle. I'm gone.
Too little, too late."
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. I was like, I don't mess around. Like, I can be very go with the flow, but at the same time, like, don't like do stuff like that. Like integrity things I don't like. Like, don't, so anything
that's
like
big.
That would come up, I would move.
You know your value and your worth and what you were bringing to them, and they didn't appreciate and respect that. So see you later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Once that trust is violated, like what's going to happen next? Like I would just be looking over my shoulder. Like even if you took that offer, you would probably 6 months, you'd probably want to find a new job anyways.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
So Joe, what would be some advice that you would have for people based on your experience with bad bosses you've done, as far as like, not everyone's in a position where they can basically be like, "Hey, screw you, I'm leaving." So if you did find yourself in that kind of situation, like, I don't know, what kind of things have worked for you, I guess, of kind of dealing with a bad boss and still making it work?
Yeah, I think a big thing is especially like, and it's like you said, it's like if you have the luxury of like, let's say you have a job and you're looking for a new job, or like you have the luxury of like maybe like picking and choosing, ask like probing questions that can like kind of like get to the bottom of like what the culture's like. Oh man, that whole like the people who like really get off on like the like work hard, play hard are essentially saying you're going to work nonstop. It's like when I hear that, like when people are like long hours, but like they kind of like wear it as a badge of honor, I'm always like, am I like, are you talking like 10, 12 hours? Or are you saying like, I'll have no life? Like that's one that was a big red flag for me. Overly positive cultures I've found are a little suspect. It's usually like a smoke screen for like other underlying issues if people can't be like just real about stuff. But so let's say you're in a job that sucks with a bad boss. Yeah, I just think kind of like what you did, Lauren, like where you just kind of go, okay, yep, that sucks, but all right. And then you just immediately start finding something better. You know, like if you find yourself in a shitty job and you're like immediately like, oh God, this is terrible, then like find something and then like pretend it never existed. Like just delete it from your resume. If you find out like 6 months in, I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, think you can at least stick something out like a year? Like if you're already kind of been there for a while?
I mean, I was always told like you shouldn't have too many different jobs on your resume because it doesn't really look great. So I was always told that you have to stay at least six months. So if you can stick it out at least then, I feel like you just can't be scared to make a change, right? I think a lot of people stay in jobs that they don't like because they're kind of scared of like, you know, what if I get into another job that I don't like, or they're just kind of afraid of change. But I feel like 9 times out of 10, when you make a change like that, even if it's say just as an equal, like crappy environment, you're still getting something out of it better, right? Like you may get like more pay or something a little closer to home, or like one of the law firms I worked at was like the worst place I've ever worked in my entire life. And I made so many of my like really good friends now I met at that law firm. So it was like such a terrible place to work, but I got such amazing people and friendships that I'm still friends with now, like out of that. So that was really rewarding, right?
So finding like the good, like within the bad, like there's always like some things that can like compartmentalize that aren't maybe like maybe your boss sucks, but your coworkers are awesome.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, I'm scared to make the change, but okay, I'm going to make a change and I get this new job. Oh man, I'm in this new job and it sucks just as like my other job sucked. But you know, you're probably getting paid more money, right? Because you're going to, you know, most likely get a higher salary.
Yeah, you're not going to leave for less. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Or you have like more work-life balance, right? Like maybe, you know, that company is transactional law instead of litigation. So it's a little bit more 9 to 5 and you know, have a better work-life balance, right? Even if the environment is still kind of crazy, or you may have a coworker who's a little bit nuts, right? So I feel like there's, you know, you can kind of find the good in something, even if it's not great.
One thing that, and I'm glad that you kind of like what made me think about this. I recently had a boss who was like really like a micromanager, and I kind of like was like talking to people that are like my kind of career mentors that have like been there, done that. And what I kind of come to realize is it wasn't because I was doing a bad job. It's because they were maybe a little more insecure in their particular role. And so I turned it around instead of me being like exacerbating the problem and saying like, stop fucking bothering me. Like, I know how to do my job. Like, you know what I mean? Like that attitude, which makes it them just like want to like glob on harder. I took it as hey, I'm here to help you. Like whatever you need, like I want you to feel comfortable that I'm going to get it done. And even if I thought it was stupid, I would just kind of do more of the stuff. And that actually kind of started working versus being resistant to it. So I think if you can figure out a way to like even a bad boss has like a goal, like they want to keep their job. So if you can figure out a way to like aid them in that goal, I think that can lessen their awfulness.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you.
A little coffee cup in the morning helps too. Like, here's your coffee in the morning.
That's
that always
smart.
makes somebody feel good, right? What about you, Cameron?
Sugar's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with both of you. And on Joe, especially what you're saying, I would add like understanding where that person's coming from, like kind of trying to put yourself in their shoes and realizing like 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with you. You just, you know, shit rolls downhill and it's just kind of like they're taking it out on you type of thing. But I like what you're both saying is like understanding that and then, okay, what can I do to like help put them at ease. Because the more they're that way, especially if they're managing more than you, like other people, you'll no longer be a focus, because they'll be like, oh, cool, that person's like bought in, and like, I don't have to worry about them. Like, they're totally doing things I like. And they'll go to the person who's being resistant and fighting. And that's where their attention and focus will be.
Yeah.
So I would 100% agree with that.
And that's that office politics that you guys are,
Yep.
you know, and I've Cam and Cam and I worked together for about a year, and like, I think I agree. Like, you're definitely not like in the drama or in the politics, Cam, but like you're very adept at like doing a good job and being well liked, which seems to help like just move through the, like you just kind of cut through it like a nice smooth sail ship, right? So that, I think that's a really smart thing too.
And that's part of it. I would add is like, also just like you said earlier, Lauren, was like being thick-skinned helps. Like if you just realize, like, not take the stuff personal. And then your coworkers, for me, that's always been a big place in jobs that I've had that were really sucky. It's like everyone's kind of like, it's all of you versus that boss, right? So then you kind of band together and form that camaraderie and that friendship, and that's what it is, right? And then it's like joking amongst the team and venting and like laughing when the ridiculous stuff happens. So for me, that helps in those situations. If you know, hopefully that helps other people. So before we get out of here, we're getting long on time. Before we do final takeaways, should we do a round of jokes from everyone? Everyone got a joke?
Is that a joke?
I can go first to give you all some time to come up with one. But
I always have bad jokes, but I'll go after you.
Why are chefs mean? Because they whip the eggs and beat the cream.
Okay, I have one.
Okay.
Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
I don't know.
Because he was outstanding in his field.
I like that.
Good.
All right,
What do you
Joe.
call a factory that makes okay products?
I don't know.
A satisfactory.
Oh, those are great.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, let's do final takeaways. Lauren, we always like to do, you know, if someone were to take kind of away like a nugget or a piece of wisdom from the entire episode, what do you feel that would be for you?
I think it just kind of goes back to what we were saying about sort of trying to find the good in every, you know, job that you have or in any environment that you have. And just kind of like not being afraid to make the change, right? So if something happens, like somebody gets promoted over you, or they promised you a raise and you didn't get the raise. And if that's like a core, you know, value for you, it's like, move on and go to the next, you know, don't stay just because you feel like you have to, right? Or you're, you know, afraid to venture out. Just in the end, 9 times out of 10, you'll find something better, right? Some aspect of it is better.
I like that. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I think I got a good piece of advice when I was in college. It's like, it wasn't a boss, but it was like a professor. And I was going to like fail this class. And I was going to like make up this whole bullshit story and like try to like create this whole scenario to like get him to like give me a pass. And I got some advice from this kid named Chris. And he was like, just like talk to him like human to human. And so I wound up just kind of telling this guy, hey, listen, here's what happened. I really can't afford to fail this class. And is, you know, is there anything I can do? And it worked out. Right. And so I think if you can have like if your boss is just like awful, like throwing fucking swing line staplers at you, it might be okay to sit down and be like, listen, like, I want to do a good job here. The throwing of staplers, and like, I don't know if I can like do a good job with that going on, but like, tell me what you need from me so that we can have a good relationship. And I think if a person, unless they're like full blown sociopath, is going to be open to like having that conversation and creating a better working environment.
I like that.
I like that too. Plus, I think it also opens up to maybe they don't even realize that they're doing those behaviors. So having that conversation, it might be a chance for them to be like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I was treating you like that.
Yeah. And I think any good like leader or someone who's like wants to be successful is like thrives on constructive criticism.
The one takeaway I would have that we hadn't talked about yet, but I feel is important is if and when you decide to leave, just do it like in as nice as way as possible. Don't burn your bridges, because a lot of times you end up in the same career field. And even though you think like, oh, you know, this is a very big field, you'd be surprised. Like people move from company to company and like people know each other and, you know, don't do what I did when I left a movie theater. I mean, obviously that's just like, you know, like a summer job, not a big deal. But, you know, when you have that type of reaction or blow up and burn your bridges, it can really catch up to you down the road. So
you're probably like somewhere in like every break room in like the Regal Cinema or like Regal Cinema corporate has like a
picture of Cameron,
like FBI's most wanted list, and like you're on the list. They've like used like age technology to like, here's what you look like then, and here's probably what you look like now, and they have like that photo. You know, when they're like the kidnapped kids, and they show like how they look older.
Yes,
or they could just probably find a picture of you because you're like a human who is alive still and like on the mark. But yeah, getting it off the topic on that one.
Well, and I think what you say, Cameron, is a good point, because whenever you apply or interview for another job, they can call your old job and verify things, right? So if you're, you know, kind of flew off the rails or whatever, I mean, they can easily just say, hey, this person did this and this and this, and, you know, there goes your chances at some next place, right? So,
well, always talk positively about your current or prior employer, even if you hate their guts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, yeah, it didn't work out, but you know, I have no hard feelings. I think they're great people.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're thinking, if you're like, fuck them, they suck. Then they're thinking, well, if he leaves here, he's going to talk about us like that.
That's a great point. And I've heard a lot of people be like, oh, well, your former job, they're not allowed to say anything about you. They're only allowed to say the dates that you worked there and confirm that. I'm like, that's not true. That's a misconception. Like people think that's the case. They're like, legally, they can't say anything about you. And I'm like, that's not true. If you had some,
they
like,
can say,
if you like
usually don't
flip desks over and like threw things and screamed when you left there, they can tell them that happened. Like, that's not making things up. So let's just be careful.
And they could even just say like, hey, I would not rehire this person, and I would recommend not hiring them.
Yep.
And like,
yeah, when I've had to check people's references, I'll say like, would you hire this person again? And
have you ever heard people say no?
No, I had somebody kind of sort of beat around the bush a little bit about it. It seemed like he didn't want to say directly no, but he sort of kind of implied it. So I was like,
they don't want to get in trouble. Like, if I say no, I'm going to get sued.
Yeah, or something like that. But no, everyone that I've ever checked their references, they were like, oh no, I would totally hire he or she, whatever, again.
Well, that will be the end of the episode for today. Thanks again, Lauren, for coming on and being a guest. We really appreciate your time. And
thanks for having me.
This has been episode 14. Please, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. And we look forward to seeing you next week for episode 15.
Bye.